going to do a certain physiology. I don't have to think about it consciously. Does that make sense to you guys? Yes. Do you see what I just did? My goal, and I have to remind myself this when I'm lecturing or when I'm sharing, is I have to constantly stop and I need to get agreement. Because I live, eat, and breathe this. My family does. We've all been doing it, but they haven't. So I have to make a check periodically to just slow down and get agreement for them and ask them, does that make sense? And they'll say yes. Or who's had that experience? Raise your hand. And they'll raise their hand. Do you see what I'm saying? You've got to get them coming along with you because this is a process. The goal of ads that you run and flyers that you do, for those of you that may have heard this before, what's the goals of the ads and the flyers and all that type of stuff that you do? What's the goal for that? To get them to a healthcare lecture, to get them in the office, not to get them as a new patient. That's not why. And we've done that for years. We think we're running these ads and we're going to get them as no, that's not the reason. It's to get them to a lay lecture, get them to a class. And then the goal of the class, what do you think the goal of the class is? Education. Yes, but what's the next step? We want to bring them down. Filter them? Nope, not yet. Evaluation. You want to get them to an evaluation. You want to get an exam. You want to get them into an exam. And then what's the goal of the exam or the evaluation? Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. It's to get them to a report of finding. Get them to a report of findings. So now you're going to do you see the step-by-step progression? Take it a step, there's 3 common reasons. I got the 3 common reasons. I finally went back and I researched it. You know the 3 common reasons why people have problems in learning? And this is a learning experience for them and for you. There's 3 common reasons. The first common reason is mass. The second common reason is a misunderstood word. And the third reason is too great of a gradient. So if you try to take a person who's never understood, even though they are vibrating in their heart, understand if they're coming, most of the people, if they're coming in your door, they're vibrating with you. Does everybody understand that? They would never even come in your door if they weren't vibrating. But you got to work with this thing that we have called educated mind. And if you try to take them from educated mind, that aspirins can help your back pain or solve your problems, and then you get into, well, think about when you were 7 years old and you had a grief. Do you see what that gradient looks like? That's just like taking somebody who's never done a triathlon and do an Ironman. Would that cause a problem? Yeah. Yeah, and even if they could survive that thing, are they going to really come back for it? No. So I want lifetime clientele. So we got to make the gradient gentle. So we get them to the report of finding, and then at the report of finding, what do you think the goal of the report of finding is? Now nobody wants to share because they're like, somebody said commitment. I want them to commit to a block of care. Okay? I want them to sign up for a block of 12, 24, 36. I want committed people. So I've sort of got off track a little bit as giving you the lay lecture, but I'm sort of weaving this in as practitioners, okay? In BEST, we have one way of looking at things, and it's fundamental. And it's that our bodies were created not to be sick, not to be well, but to survive. So let's say that with me. Our bodies were created not to be, but they're not created to be, but they're created to survive. Because everything we're going to talk about tonight is going to be based upon that premise, and you're going to see what we're talking about. There's 2 ways you can look at health, and it's not an either or. It's you use one when it's appropriate and the other when it's appropriate. So we have what's called allopathic medicine, that's medical care. And then we have holistic wellness. I love that picture. Let's just go back. I just love that picture, Sue. I mean, that just gets Sue's essence right there. So in allopathic medicine, what we're talking about, it is symptom-oriented. You don't have to write this down. Don't write it down. Don't write it down. Just feel it. Just feel this right now. Because you're going to get the CDs. You're going to get this. You're going to get this, right? You're going to get this. Do you understand what my goal is right now? Oh, I just tipped my hand. Okay. You can see right through me, but that's okay because it's for you. So allopathic medicine, it's symptom-oriented, it's disease care. It is disease care. It is drugs and surgery and chemo and radiation. That's your options, okay? It's crisis care. It's phenomenal crisis care. Patients, does anybody know that, and I'll do this because now I'm going back into your clients. Does anybody know the definition of the word patient? It comes from a Greek word. It's rooted in the word long suffer. So what I want you to do is raise your hand if anybody out there really likes to suffer for a long time. No, nobody likes to suffer for a long time. And it's passive care. Basically, you don't do a whole lot, right? You just go to your medical doctor and they're going to give you something or do something and you don't do anything at all. It's very passive. So then we have holistic wellness care. It is energy-oriented. And we're going to talk about this energy. And it's wellness care. No drugs and surgery, or few. Practitioners are teachers. I'm primarily a teacher. There's an active care. There's a cooperation here. I'm responsible for something, which I'm great at, and you guys are great at as practitioners, and then the client is responsible for their part. Does that make sense to you guys? See, because some of the people, at least from their educated mind, they're coming in and thinking, well, they got a referral, and then you're going to do something, and that something's going to radically change their lives, and they don't have to do anything. They're still in the medical model. There's a lot of people who walk into our clinic that they're still in the medical model, and so you want to be upfront and say, this is not the medical model. It's not that the medical model's bad. When I was younger, I was very anti-medicine. I'm not anti-medicine because if a person has a gunshot wound and they have to have stitches, oh my gosh, you want to get them in that care. Although, and I say this to them, I have worked on people in extreme emergencies like heart attacks after races, two or three times. And I've worked upon people, and I do this because now I got to get silly. Okay, I've worked upon people in acute asthmatic crisis standing there with the paramedics. Now just check this one out, because now I want them to see that I'm a human being, okay? So I'm a triathlete, and I'm standing there in a Speedo. Now you don't have to picture me in my Speedo. I'm just doing this. Yeah, exactly. The girls can picture me in my Speedo. You don't have to picture me in my Speedo. Okay. So she's kind of like it. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so I'm standing there in my Speedo and my glasses, my sunglasses, and my wife comes up to me and she says, that person over there is having an asthmatic attack. I said, yeah? So she keeps after me. Well, what are you going to do? I'm going to start to breathe. I just got done my race. So she just keeps after me, so I'm fine. Okay, you drug me into it. So I go and what do you do? I mean, you can't lie them down on the ground. They're going to burn themselves. So I just held some contacts, maybe at C2 and maybe at T12, both sides. Then I did a double crown to the sternum, and I worked it through. Now, this is just while the emergency med tech is standing there, and she's turning blue. What are you doing? I said, I'm a doctor. Leave me alone. I know what I'm doing. Now, you'd say I'm a practitioner. She takes a deep breath. She comes out of the asthmatic attack. So, again, this story was just to see that you can, and we can work on people in emergency care. However, sometimes you may need to transition into that acute care too. So I've worked on people with heart attacks long enough so that they would survive so we could get them to a hospital. Does that make sense? Do you see how there's no competition between either school of thought? So we talk about beliefs. Now, what beliefs